Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Cool Colas here, and you're tuning into another cool video. So, what I wanted to talk to y'all about today is a topic that I think is a little bit more serious than some of the other stuff that I put out there. It's around writing, but specifically, it's around a topic that I think doesn't really get touched on almost ever. And I think that it's about time that I jump in and talk about how important this piece is when it comes to writing. So, what I wanted to talk to you all about is why I believe that there are not a lot of black writers, like black male writers specifically, is what I'm talking about here. Why you don't see a lot of black males telling their stories or telling things that they've created and so on and so forth. So let's kind of get into that, and we can kind of talk about why that's few and far between, and also too, like what could be done about that. So I'm going to share a little bit of my experience because I think that it would allow other people to kind of just gain insight on just like not only just me as a person, but I think some of the struggles that I see with like other like black males specifically. So you probably have heard me say this millions of times on different forms of social media, whether it was on my website, whether it was on Twitter or Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook and are friends with me, or on Instagram, like on here. But the one reason why I personally got into writing was because of the fact that I felt unheard for a super long time from everyone. And when I say felt unheard, I mean literally from like, when I would go to school, from being at home, like literally being at home and those I was at home with, literally from some of my friends. And really, I felt like I just didn't have a voice at a certain point. I felt like I had to be quiet a lot. I felt like I had to be careful of the way that I came off, careful of the way I said something, because there have been instances where it's like, don't raise your voice, don't say this, don't say that, you're too loud, you're too this, you're too that. I would get those types of reactions a lot. And I mean, I'll admit my voice can project pretty well, but I think that a lot of people always wanted me silent all the time, and I never really understood it. I never understood why people were always like, just trying to quiet me. And so what I came to realize is that there's like this big intimidation factor that I think comes with black men. And the weird thing is, like, I don't really feel like I'm an intimidating person at all. If anything, I think I have a rather calm spirit. Like I'm energetic, and I have a lot of things to say, and I get really like into the things that I'm passionate about and that I believe. But I wouldn't say that I'm like an aggressive person. But I think that label gets thrown on to black men specifically. And I think that, to a certain extent, there are a lot of like emotions that are harbored within black males. And the reason why is I think it kind of goes back to like, a certain upbringing. So what I'm getting at here is that one of the main reasons why I feel from my own experience and then from others' experiences why you don't see a lot of black male writers is because of the fact that I think black men are never allowed to truly express themselves without judgment, criticism, and basically being hammered by basically anyone. And again, this is not, and I want to say this because I think this part is very important. This is never to criticize sisters. Never. Like I love black women. Love black women. But I think that every single person who is outside of the scope of being seen as a black male, in this case, straight black male, is always almost not allowed to be able to express themselves in every regard. I think that what ends up happening is you grow up as a black male and you're told not to express your emotions, not to show how you feel about things, not to say what you think about stuff unless it's like basically looked at the lens of how you can improve, how you can be a good asset to a woman, how you can be a benefit to society. And really, society has created this ideal that as a man, that you like have to provide, and if you can't provide, like then there's no use for you. You weren't allowed to cry. You weren't allowed to be able to express yourselves. And again, this is not like everybody's reality. I think this is just a majority reality that I've seen. But here's the part about it that is worse for black men specifically than it is for any other man or person. Because think about how white men are. White men basically rule the world, right? At this point, they rule the world from an economic standpoint, from a supremacist standpoint, and from many other standpoints. Now, I don't want to get into like racism and things like that in this video specifically, but what I'm basically getting at is that black men specifically do not have any ownership, but they take the same amount, if not more, hell from everyone than someone like a different form of man, like a white man specifically. And so that's the thing that I think is like bothersome, is that I think we get placed into that category. And that's why a lot of things exist that are there to like break the black man specifically down. So a lot of black men don't write, in my opinion, kind of the same reason why they don't really speak about their feelings and emotions, and they find themselves now harboring all this like resentment and frustration with people. It's because they haven't been able to really have a safe space to be able to express themselves without being criticized or judged or having it thrown back in their face or silenced or ignored. And I will say that even recently I had an experience where I spoke to somebody, and I wanted to tell them like how they actually like made me feel, and this person actually told me that I was like wasting their time, right? So, when I actually was saying it. So obviously, different people have different things that they're going through and that they're experiencing that make them feel the need to react that way. And I realize that, and I understand that. But I think one of the reasons why black men don't write or don't express how they feel is because it always goes under a microscope. Whereas we now live in a society where, for example, and again, I do not want to make this a demonization of the black woman, because I definitely don't mean that. But I think there's a lot of black women who are coming out and they're talking about their stories and the things they've been through. And then other black women are actually like supporting them, for the most part, and like basically happy about their stories and things like that. And they see it as a big thing, a big feat, and that's cool. So again, not to demonize them ever, but I think that if I were to go and I were to talk about my stories and the things that I've been through, it probably wouldn't be seen through the same lens, unless it was somebody who truly, truly cared about me. And even then, sometimes I kind of got to break it down for people. I kind of got to break it down where people got to be able to understand me. So what I noticed is that the reason why I started writing is because people were cutting me off or silencing me or trying to tell me I shouldn't talk. And in turn, what I started doing was I started speaking up more and more and more. And then I started doing it even more in writing, because writing was my first like leverage to start like expressing all my thoughts and expressing the things that I felt and being able to tell my story regardless of how other people felt. So I say that to say that I think that we get hell from everybody. And then I think it's also from other black men as well, too. I don't think that this is the norm so much now as it used to be. But one thing that I started noticing is that anything is looked at as trauma gets thrown into this category of, oh, I'll just go seek a therapist. So the idea here that I'm trying to make is that I get the idea of healing, but I think what happens is I think other people are ignoring like a very clear issue that black men aren't being able to, express themselves. So they simply just don't. They clam up. They don't say the things that are on their mind. Now, what do I think we can do about that? Well, I think as a black man who writes, who expresses himself, who gives his thoughts, who tells his opinions, I want to write so I can encourage other black men to be able to do the same thing. Because I think that there would be more of a therapeutic process that would exist when you are a black man and you are able to write than that would exist if if you didn't have that same encouragement. Because what I find is that the encouragement and then the extending of the keep going, like you can do it, is not really there a lot. Now I'm lucky and I'm blessed at this point. Well, I wouldn't say lucky. I don't think I'm lucky at all. I think I discern pretty well, but I'm happy and grateful at this point to have certain friends who are definitely encouraging for me to be able to speak up and to say things that are on my mind, for the most part. But I think a lot of people don't have that same system, and a lot of people certainly don't have that discernment to be able to decide who is in their corner with that and who isn't. So I guess I say that to say that as a black man, writing isn't happening a lot for us because we have been conditioned in every form not to be able to express ourselves and our pain and our frustrations without them being put under a microscope of criticism, judgment, or just lack of care. Because some people they may not even like be harsh about it. They may just kind of brush you off like what you're saying isn't important. But I don't think it gets televised that same way. I mean, I just think that we are a group of people who are totally ostracized in society. So my plan here is to change that narrative, to make it better, and to make other Black men feel safe and feel welcome to be able to express the things that go on in their minds, the contradictions that they see, the things that they don't really understand, and the reasons why they don't understand the way that they're being treated. So I think another thing too is that like just certain art forms I think had like back in the day weren't really big things that I guess Black men were also like taught to like get into or to do. I think a lot of times like we were taught that, you know, our forms of success could be what, like playing some type of sport. I was gonna say basketball, but it's really any sport. You know, like, you know, a lot of people were convinced that, you know, if they got into rapping or they got into music, that could be like another gateway as well too, or something else that's clearly not legal. But again, I'm not forcing all those stereotypes on the Black man because that's absolutely not true. All I'm simply saying is that, like, I think that there has never been a time up until this point where there was a creative outlet for Black men to be able to express themselves, and writing is one of those creative outlets. Like, and I think that a lot of people who, like I said, do fall under the category of Black male just don't truly get the opportunity to you know, like really say what's on their mind. I think writing is just a great way to do so. It's really helped me. I've always felt great after doing it, after flushing out my ideas. I flushed them out in a lot of different things that I've written, and you know, and I've been able to like actually see a lot of the things in my experiences come to life and really like come into fruition. And then the other thing I would say too is that like I also have like a pretty good support system. I feel I have a wife who supports everything that I do as long as it's like healthy and conducive. Clearly, I have, you know, friends who support me as well too, and are very encouraging, and that's something that, you know, I can, you know, definitely appreciate. And I just think after a while, like I've kind of like just grown this ability to just really just have like empathy for others, and to be able to know that there are other people out there who probably have felt silenced before, who probably felt that other people weren't hearing them, who probably felt like other people were shunning them before, other Black males. And I really just want to be that voice that tells them, hey, it's okay to tell your story. And I think that's the central reason why you don't really see them in this type of media. You don't really see them expressing themselves in the same light that you may see somebody who falls under some other race or some other category of sex, or even like I would say sexual orientation. Like you, and we're talking about, again, like heterosexual Black men. I just think a lot of us don't really get that space, and I just want to be the person who, or one of the people who allows them to be able to have the space to express themselves and do so with encouragement instead of criticism, because that's not really what's needed at this point. Anyway, I really appreciate you all hearing me out for like almost 15 minutes here and listening to what I have to say. If you want to hear more from me, because there will be a lot more, feel free to either follow me on Twitter at KolosCool, here on Instagram, if you're not following me yet, at KolosCreative, or to go on my website at creativekolos.com, or to go to my author page, which is Cool Kolos Author. There's going to be a lot more to come. I appreciate you tuning in, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace.